I lost my wife, and I was looking for her. I was reminded, hey, Clint, she's gone 15 minutes already. And I'm like, oh no, where? The point of the story is, don't underestimate your wives or your spouses. She found a little corner and she found a friend, and they're sitting and chatting somewhere, and she'll be back now. So yeah, I almost asked somebody to pray for me. Ladies and gentlemen, for the next few minutes, we're going to be looking at what needs to be heard. Please understand that the following slides and the information found on them is not information that I sat down and devised myself and started typing. It comes from interviews I've had and sessions I've had with individuals struggling with addiction. So, my heart once again is this: whatever will be shared now, in my opinion, needs to be heard. It gets rough at times. It will feel intimidating at times. It will feel like an indictment at times. But understand that it needs to be heard nonetheless. So, there are 4 points. Let me just go back there and do this properly. What needs to be heard? There are 4 points from not Clint's perspective, but from the addict's perspective. From the perspective of those struggling with addiction, or those that struggled with addiction. If there are any questions that you want to ask, wait until I'm done with the presentation. It's not going to take very long, and then you can ask away. Okay. I can't promise that I have all the answers, but I know there's somebody here in this room that will be able to shed some light on something that somebody needs to ask. Okay? So let's continue. So this morning, my brief needs to end at 11, so please time me. This morning, there are 4 points from an addict's reality that I want to share with you. Just 4 points from an addict's reality. Please understand that the 4 points and the information that follows in the 4 points, and I'm looking for a good word, is not exhaustive. Correct? It's not complete. You can always add to it and add to it and add to it. This is the addict's reality and the information I gathered from a small sample of people. So let's go ahead and do that with your permission. Is that okay? Just 4 points. And this will definitely shed some light as we go into the journey of addiction today. We'll have some more testimonies. We'll hear from media addiction, and we'll hear from drugs and addiction on the brain, etc., from the experts. Let's carry on. Number 1. And Doc, it's very important, these points. Number 1. What I needed you to know while I was using. This is from the addict's perspective, from the addict's reality. They're busy using, they're busy getting high, they're addicted, they're struggling with substances, Randall. And there's just certain things that they didn't get to say. There's certain things that they just didn't get out of their systems while using. And so point number 1, we're going to look at very briefly what I needed to know, what I needed you to know while I was using. And just reality check. When your family member, your loved one, your colleague, a friend, someone down the road, a neighbor, is high or using, let's be honest, and I speak to myself as well. Do I really have time to sit and listen to their long stories, especially when they in the clouds, flying high like a kite? It is my default that, man, I'm going to listen to your long stories. I live in a community where this happens, and every time this happens, and I'm thankful for this opportunity, every time this happens, in my mind I'm telling myself, you know what, good.
All they want is some money for the addiction. And so my default is, okay, just wait a bit. I'm going to speak in Afrikaans to them, okay, very quickly. Wacht net 'n bietjie. Ek gaan 'n plan maak. Just wait a bit. I'm going to make a plan. And I leave the gate where I live. I run inside. I try and find, as I use this photo. I try. There we go. I try and find some change, not even notes or some dignified amount of money. I try and find some change laying around. I give it to them, and this leaning over that pit bull, that dog that I have, that's very unfriendly, And I lean over him so that they don't come too close to me, and I give them the change, and I say, okay, sharp, see you next time. They really don't get what's on their heart out. And so we're going to look at, does that sound like I was mumbling now? Made sense? Yeah. What I needed you to know while I was using. Number 2, why I used. And maybe let's just bring it home. Why I am using drugs. Now, stop there and just point out that this presentation is from the perspective of a drug addict and I'm going to certainly develop a and I think that's fair. But for this morning, things I would not like to experience with
think maybe it's the graphic. Let's see. Hey, there we go. All right. So number one, things I wanted you to know while I was using. Please hear me and try to understand. It's very important. Please hear me and try to understand. This is the one struggling with addiction speaking. And we're going to start with, with something very hectic. And we will either agree or disagree. I'm standing behind the flowers so that I don't get thrown with any bottles. Or apples. Why do you hate me so much? And so the one caught in addiction, based on interviews, not my information, but those that are or were struggling, have this feeling that while they were high, while they were using, their family members, their friends, the community, the colleagues they work with, when found out that they were using, felt that they were hated. I can't stand you. All that they saw was the addiction, but not the addict, not the person behind the addiction. This is real, not my information. They feel that they are hated. And so they wanted their families, you to know, why do you hate me so much? I'm high, I'm using, I steal, I do strange things just to get my next fix, but I feel like you hate me. Is that normal? Okay, I told you not to ask questions now. That's a very normal place to be. Next one. I am still human. I feel. I hurt. And for those of you that would like this presentation, because there's no copyright, we can certainly download it and send it to you. Nothing strange about this. It's just information from the person's perspective. So number one, why do you hate me so much? This is how the addict feels. This is how the person struggling with addiction feels. Why do you hate me so much? Number two, I'm still human. I feel, I hurt. I'm human. Please, and it's a cry out. Please look beyond what I'm doing. And when we get to later things, you'll see it will make sense. Please communicate openly with me, respectfully. So the person struggling with addiction is saying, please speak to me, communicate with me, tell me how you're feeling, tell me you don't like what I'm doing, be as open and honest as you want to, but at the end of the day, be respectful. There's a difference between, and I'm going to move across the room now. There's a difference between Muriel. I don't like you. Really, I don't like you and the things you're doing. You know what? I really don't like the person you are right now and what you're doing. Big difference. Respect. So I'm telling you straight, I really don't like the way that you walked away, disappeared for 15 minutes. I was looking for you all over, Sir David. I didn't appreciate that. Disrespectful. Muriel, where were you? We were a bit concerned, man. I missed you. I missed you, man. I was worried about you. You see the difference? Same message, but I'm being respectful. The same thing applies to those struggling with addiction. Number next. I can only imagine how difficult it is, but please try to understand my struggle. And no, I can't say that I've been addicted to the point of losing everything in my life. But just a nod will do. I do it, but I really don't want to do it. I'm struggling. I'm caught in a cycle of having no control. It's a struggle for me, ladies and gentlemen. It's a struggle. I know I mustn't do it. I know I shouldn't do it. I know it's messing my life up. But the next minute I find myself doing it, it's a struggle.
please, please understand my struggle. I don't know if this is making sense. Maybe I'm just too nice now. No, I speak from experience because I too have family members. Yeah. I can only imagine how difficult it is, but please try to understand my struggle. Now, the context here is we're speaking about the person struggling with addictions perspective. Please, please try and understand my struggle. The last one, I needed someone to ask me what my problem or struggle was instead of continuously telling me to just stop. Kirsten, stop doing drugs. Kirsten, stop jumping over that fence for that lawnmower to buy your next button. Just stop doing it. Stop stealing, Kirsten. Stop it. Stop it. Or, hey, you know what, Kirsten? Talk to me, man. Why are you doing it? What's the problem, man? Speak to me. Share with me. I'm not worried about the addiction or the drugs now. Where are you, man? Talk to me. Talk to me. What's your problem? What's your struggle? I think that's more pertinent. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. You can say amen or no or yes or Clint, it's hot. You know what, Clint, this is boring. I don't know. Don't worry, it's going to get more interesting. So instead of continuously telling me just to stop, take some time to speak to me and find out what my struggles are. Any questions? It's okay.
Is that a little about the other thing from you?
You can't always help them with their problems.
Then just understanding nothing about this whole thing clearly based on it.
Yes and no. Yes, addiction is a mind-altering. It's a brain struggle. You're right. You can't always help with the actual problem. However, it makes all the difference as a counselor. It makes all the difference as somebody that was counseled. It makes all the difference if somebody just takes the time to hear me. Just hear me. I don't have the answers. I can't solve that specific problem. But you know what? I hear you. You are recognized. And now because I asked and you are recognized, before you ask what somebody's problem is, be willing to walk the mile with them. So I hear you. I don't have the answers. I can't solve your problem. But you know what? Because you told me, I'm going to try and get something or somebody to help you with your problem. Will we solve it overnight? No. But you know what? One step at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you're right. You're right. We can't solve, and we've been specific, we can't solve their problems, but we can hear them. And we can offer help in some way or another. And if the problem is, which most times you need to change your synapses in your brain, and the doc will speak about it later. You have to change your behavioral patterns to grow that stronger cord in your mind. Then you are helping by walking the mile, trying to change the behavior, one step at a time. And you are helping. So let's not look at the problem as specific. This is black. Please change it to white. I don't like black. And because it's black, I'm going to be upset for the rest of my life. I want this to be a red pointer. I want it red. I can't solve the problem. I can't make it red. But you know what? I hear you. I know you don't like a black marker. You want a red one? I'm going to save up some money and I'll buy you a red one one day. But I'm going to help you. Type of thing. Does it make sense? There's always hope. Moenie te veel worry. Don't worry too much. I can't solve the world's problems, no. But I can throw that one fish back in the water. They want to be heard. Wait, let me just... Is that correct? You want to be heard. 100%.
Is the word much getting one so.
And even by changing that one person, they need to be heard, step one. Okay, I'm coming here, coming here.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Yes, I need help with point number 3 and point number 4. In the sense that you can listen to them and communicate with them respectfully, but what happens when you do that, but they still repeat the same behavior over and over again? If they are Christian, mostly they will just tell you the devil made me do it. You know, that's usually what they say. Or some also say, I don't know what got over me. But you would have spoken to them, you would have understood where they're coming from, but they keep on repeating the same behavior. How do you deal with that? We understand that's what they need. But if we give them that, but they still keep on repeating the same behavior, how do you deal with it? Because honestly speaking, as humans, we also have a point where we get frustrated and you end up, trying to give up.
100%. And you are quite correct. And many times we want to live in the microwave era where things must happen overnight. Things must happen quickly. Things must happen when I speak 5 times or 7 times. But 70 times 7, we have to continue and continue and continue. And I'll tell you why. Because never giving up hope means that one day change will come. And when that change comes, one day, I want that individual to remember me as being, in some way or another, respectful to them. So that they don't turn around 10 years later when they found recovery and say, but in my journey, you really didn't play a positive part in it. You were very impatient with me. And I understand a mother, a aunt, a grandmother. It's a struggle. You get frustrated. Oh, yes. Yes, they stop it. It's not good for you, but they continue. Sure. Just continue. And if it means you must turn your back for a season. I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn. If it means you must show some tough love for a season, show some tough love. If it means that you must remove yourself or remove them, please do that. But never stop loving the person behind the addiction. But it is. You're allowed to be frustrated. You're allowed to walk outside and kick the neighbor's cat. No, I'm lying. Don't do that. You're allowed to go kick the wall next door. You're allowed to get frustrated, but never give up. Because one day, someone's hand was up here.
Yeah, I just want to answer to that about always being there for them. If I have to give my testimony from where he comes from, it's going to take a while. But, I understand. I completely understand. Nathan is my eldest son. And I completely understand why Nathan went the way he did. Because his father left us when he was about 8 years old. His sibling was about 3 years old when he left us. And I had to struggle with him with the help of my dad. And all of a sudden, Nathan just went the wrong way. But when I spoke to him, I always would go to him and ask, boy, speak to me, why? And he came to me one day and he said to me, Ma, why don't I have a dad? And that particular thing worked on him. It bugged him. Everybody has fathers. Why don't I have one? And that basically, when he went out, when he became an adolescent, he has people, he has older guys. He was always busy with older guys, people older than him, where you could feel that there's a gangster, there's actually the love that I need. But I thank God today, I was there, I embraced him and tried to help him. And after a while, he just took his own way. He just went his own way. And whenever I go back to him, he's the first point of call to come back to me, Mommy, I need help. And I thank the Lord that He gave me the grace to stand firm and to help him. And it's a long story how I prayed in church one day. I said, God, what you can do for others, you can do for me and my children. No, Pastor, I didn't see him for 2 weeks. I didn't know where he was. And I went to school that morning and I saw that somebody sitting on the corner there with a beanie over their head. And I walked up to him and I looked. And he looked up to me and he says, Mommy, God answered my prayer and came. And you know, that really, what you said now about not giving up, even though what happens, not giving up, Bundy. And that is why.
Thank you. And during that journey, I bet you, you were frustrated. You were angry. You went and kicked the wall next door. But you never gave up. One day. And you know, when we have this attitude, even though they're sitting on the street corner with a beanie over their eyes, they will always have that security to come to you. Because they know you still love them regardless. Let's hop. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, one more.
Sorry, I know we're rushing, but I think this is very important for us, especially as Adventists, to remember that we've got an important message, and a lot of people don't know this, that there's a great controversy happening, and the grand prize is you. So whether you are the family member or the person suffering with addiction, there's a fight for your soul, either to derail you from your Christianity or to snuff out your life. And so we must understand that our children, our family members are actually in a battle against the devil himself, and he wants to snuff out their lives. So we cannot give up. We need to be prayerful and continue till Jesus comes.
That's right. Right, let's go. That was number one. We're going to go very quickly. Once again, the presentation and all the information, which is not mine, but from those struggling, will be made available to you. One of my great weaknesses in my life, maybe it's an addiction, I don't know. My wife calls me methodic. I'm very methodic. One of my great weaknesses, I believe, is I'm a stickler for time. So whether I'm finished with the presentation or not, when time comes, I'm done. Okay. So in the middle of a sentence, 11 o'clock, I'm finished. All right, let's go. Number two, why I am using currently unresolved childhood issues. Not mine, but from the perspective of those using. Unresolved childhood issues. Why I used in the first place? Why am I still using? Why do I continuously find myself relapsing? Let's go. Unresolved childhood issues. Are you still with me, ladies and gentlemen? This is hectic. This is really hectic. When I typed this, it was really hectic. Bullying. Bullying is real. Bullying is real. It might not hit us now or our children now or those we know now. It might hit them a bit later. It might hit those a bit later than that. But bullying, being bullied as a child, it's real. Check this one out. Perceived or actual abuse at home drives certain individuals to go and abuse substances. Very interesting. Perceived or actual. Now we most times would understand the actual. I've been abused at home. I can't take the abuse at home. My mommy this, my daddy that, my big brother this, my big sister this, my uncle, my auntie, my opa, my grandfather, my grandmother. Actual abuse we can understand. But what about the mind of a child that perceives they are being abused? These are opportunities for us to go back home and open up those channels of communication. Let's be wary that maybe one or two or three or four individuals perceive something, and we can quickly correct that by enforcing love and support. Why unresolved childhood issues?
Whew, next one. Immense parental or peer pressure. Not too long ago when the matric results came out, yet again in our community, somebody jumped over the bridge. And I say that callously, but I don't mean it that way. Immense parental pressure. Immense peer pressure. Why I started using. We need to understand this. This is real. My family did not support me or protect me. I think this came out this morning. It's recorded, so if you missed it, play it back. My family did not support me or protect me. So I found comfort in drugs. I wanted to forget my issues. Let's not underestimate those around us or ourselves. We all struggle with something. And if we don't seek help to sort that something out, guess what? It might be that Nathan was using substances. It doesn't mean that I will never use substances. It's one step away from sorting an issue out. I wanted to forget about my issues. I never was one for counseling or therapy or any of that. I've changed. If somebody can just listen to my sad story. If it means nothing to the world, at least one person must just listen to my story. Because my story is big for me. Amen? I wanted to forget about my issues. I felt unfavored as a child. I was not shown much care and concern. These are real issues. Let's just hop ahead and we'll chat a bit later. We've got 15 minutes for questions and answers, so we're within the program. Number 2, why I used. So let's just go back here. These are all issues that might be, an indictment to family members with people struggling with those addicted. It might sound like an indictment. Unresolved childhood issues, bullying, perceived abuse, parental pressure. My family didn't support me. I felt unfavored as a child. So it's very easy to assume that this is a justification for me using. It's my family's fault. It's my colleagues' fault. It's the community's fault. The next slide, however, why I used, comes a bit home, because there has to be a self-awareness as well. Are we all sleeping or are we awake? We awake? Should I go to that side? Just because I have a nice suit so you can have it. And the flowers reflect the blue. I wanted to impress my friends. So it has nothing to do with my family or my circumstances. We don't all grow up in poverty. There's some that come from good homes. And we ask ourselves, but they come from a good Christian Adventist background. Look what happened. I just wanted to impress my friends. And so I decided to experiment and to go to that place one night or that one afternoon. And the best times as when I was growing up, after church, Sabbath afternoon, it's the naughtiest time to do something on the Sabbath. It just felt better than any other day because you were really just being naughty. And I wanted to impress my friends. And guess what? 1, 2, 3 cigarettes, 4 sniffs of cocaine. 10 years later, I'm standing at Sir David testifying about my life that's in shambles because I'm addicted. That quick. So I wanted to impress my friends. I have no one else to blame. That's the other side of the coin. I have no one else to blame. I wanted to impress my friends. Can we carry on? Do I sound rushed? I am. Yeah. I was unemployed. I was stressed out. And I do a lot of marriage counseling. Let's not underestimate pressure we put on each other in circumstances of life. I'm unemployed. I'm stressed out. Bills need to be paid. And now I must be pressurized from outside sources and within the home about being useless. You're not working. You this, you that. Guess what? I'm going to find an outlet somewhere. Unfortunately. 10 years later, oh, my life. I was unemployed, stressed out. I found comfort in drugs. They find comfort in drugs. We find comfort in drugs. You know, someone once said, I'm not going to mention names, although I can because I have permission, but I won't mention the name. They said, you know what? Drugs is lekker. I enjoyed using drugs. At one point in my life, and I'm not moving here because there's a specific reason why I'm moving here because of the individual. But the person told me, you know what? And of course, always get permission before you share. You know what, Clint? I never wanted to stop. I liked using drugs. I found comfort in drugs. I experienced a certain level of freedom that nothing gave me. I experienced freedom. We need to understand all of these things. I lost hope and saw no way out of my challenges. Why I used drugs in the first place. And again, just getting back to the lady that asked the first question, all of these things become so much more difficult to resolve because it becomes a set pattern in the mind. And you'll hear this afternoon how substances adjust and affect the mind. Becomes so much more difficult. There's a perceived freedom. It's a false freedom that we believe. Let's carry on, ladies and gentlemen. When I get home, please try not to. Please try not to. Now, I explained to you that there's the other side of the coin. That presentation will come at a later stage. Not today. Where the expectation of when you get home, I expect this from you. This morning, when I get I appreciate it if you don't do the following. Are you ready for it? And this is some great tips for those who have family members who are currently at rehab centers that are going to come home very soon. Don't throw my past in my face. Don't throw my past in my face. It gets frustrating at times. You can't help it. It's a natural response. The past gets thrown in your face. Maybe you think it's the right thing to do at the right time. From the addict's perspective, please try not to throw my past in my face. Somebody said something this morning. You reinforce the idea in my mind that I am an addict. I don't appreciate being watched all the time and being treated like a child. Now, the other side of the coin is maybe some of us need to be watched all the time and treated to a certain degree like an adolescent because you lost my trust. You need to prove yourself to me again. So I'm going to watch you because you slipped up 10 times. And the 11th time, I'll be watching you. And maybe you'll slip up a 15th time, I'll be watching you. But from the addict's perspective, please try not to watch me and treat me like a child. There was a strong, when I spoke about the other side. There's silence now. Yes.
I would just like to add on to that. I don't appreciate being watched all the time and being treated like a child. Yes, we messed up, but we're not mess-ups. We are not we messed up, yes, but we're not mess-ups.
That reinforces again that, yes, I'm addicted, but there's a person behind that addiction. I messed up, but I'm not a mess up. Was there a hand? I'm losing weight at the same time. This is good.
Morning, Saints. I don't have the experience, but I want to learn about this addiction. I'm interested. But I want to know, as a parent, I love my child and I get worried. So I feel watching over time after the addiction is, for me, it will be a sense of love. So where do I draw the line between me trying to watch so that my child cannot go back to their behavior and at the same time not to be treating them as a child? Yeah, if people can help me with that.
Would anybody like to say something in relation to that? Yes.
There's a saying that says, bad company corrupts good character. So you have to look at the friends at first, you understand? That's how we keep on going back to the same thing all over and all over and all over. If you don't change your friends, you're going to relapse.
So the child or the person struggling with addiction doesn't appreciate you looking over their shoulder every time. watching every move. You love them. You don't want them to go back to addiction. So they don't want you to look over their shoulder. What are you doing? Where did you go? Who were you with? What did you do the money for? You know, all of that. Help me.
I think the best way to do that is you have to be watching. Don't get me wrong. You need to be watching. But I think there's a silent type of watching mothers know. That you see your child going and you reservedly stand by and you're like, and at that moment when you can see now this is getting dangerous. But at the same time, we will say things to them like, oh, what you doing? You know, from the kitchen when we see them close to the water. Oh, what you doing? Distract them. So there is a balance, and you've got to use wisdom because you don't want to negatively say, where are you going? What time are you coming back? But you can still be watching, but in a respectful way that, you know, and prayerfully do it. I don't know if that helps.
It makes sense. Never stop watching. Remember, this slide is about the perspective of the struggling addict. So they don't appreciate being watched all the time. So I don't know if I should say this. Let me say it. Let's be subtle. We have to watch. They don't appreciate us looking at them all the time, but we have to look. It's just how we do it. And never forget, you will always need to love that child. So how you watch makes all the difference. Just keep loving. I don't know if that answers the question. If not, we'll chat later. Let's move. Help me trust myself. Hey, that's difficult, man. You broke my trust so many times. How do I help you to trust yourself when I don't trust you? I guess it all relates to this. I don't appreciate being watched all the time, looked over, eagled on, my past get thrown in my face. Help me to trust myself. Don't remind me every time I'm an addict. Encourage me that I am recovering in addiction. Help me trust myself. Question. Comment. Yes, please. Okay. Don't worry. I'll put on weight tomorrow. I'll have cook sisters in the morning.
Okay. I wanted to say, I don't know if it's the right UI counselor, so you're going to correct me if I'm wrong there. But I think in both points, the one that you just said and the one before, I think you can also try to use reverse psychology. You know, give them the power to show that you trust them. Okay, my mother used that one on me. I didn't know it up until I grew up. You know, where you give them you give them an option to think that being responsible is up to them. If you showed somebody, my mother, the way she treated me when I was going to varsity, she was like to me, you know what, I'm not going to be there to see what you're going to be doing, but these are the pros and the cons of acting this way. If you are going to be doing this, there's unwanted pregnancies and all that stuff. I'm not going to be watching you, but I trust that you do what is right, because I taught you well, and I'm not going to come after you. So now that on its own made me to be responsible, because I didn't want to disappoint. You know, when you are someone who's prone to make mistakes, you don't want to disappoint the next person. But now if they give you that responsibility where you feel, oh, it's up to me, I've been a drug addict and I've disappointed this people, now I'm back. They expect me to mess up again. And then you'll be like, no, I'm going to make an effort not to disappoint. No one wants to disappoint anyone that they love. That's what I think.
And I agree, but I'll make a comment.
I've got a question also under number 2. Sorry to take you back. There's this point which says, I was unemployed, stressed out. Then I found comfort in drugs. Now my question is, he was unemployed. So how do they get money to buy drugs? Because they are expensive, I believe.
That's a good question. Would you like to answer that?
Yeah, there are many ways that they do get the money. It's either they start, an addiction makes you do a lot of things, including stealing stuff from the house. Even taking it, you find a TV from the house, they just take whatever they can, go and sell it for a very cheap price so that they can feed that addiction.
What do they get in the first drug? They don't have money.
I did not know anything about that.
Okay? Friends, you know, when somebody offers me something for free, mahala, in the past I used to say, hey, bonus, I can take it. Guess what? Nothing in life is free. There's always a condition. And when somebody offers you something, come on, guys, you must help me here. Did you go and buy your first drug with your own money? Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. I don't know. But that's a practical question. In my experience, my friend gave it to me, and then I was left on my own.
Just on that note, an addict is the best con artist and the best salesman you can find.
So if you're unemployed and you had no money in the first place, where did you get your first fix, and how did you feed that, basically?
Okay, so you become functional until you become a dysfunctional addict. So I worked, so I used my money. But my husband always says that I was a very spoiled addict because I never sold anything of mine. I left him to sell all these things. I never sold nothing of mine. So he used to tell me that I'm a spoiled addict. So yeah, I guess some people steal, some people sell their own things. For us, it was different, a bit different, because once we all were on that point where you started selling these things, and that's when we knew, no, it needs to stop now. So some people don't go that far. Some people go all the way where they literally jump and go and do online shopping in people's yards, where they have to and take the stuff off the washing line. And yeah, so it is. Yeah, online shopping.
There's a good word for that. Hustle. I will hustle until I get what I want and what I need. I don't need a job. I don't need money. Somebody will get something for me somehow. Even if it means I must steal. Let's carry on, ladies and gentlemen. Give me the benefit of the doubt. It's very difficult, but remember the perspective or the context here is the perspective of the struggling addict, not the other side of the coin. Give me the benefit of the doubt. Your eyes are red. You were standing there. You were walking with that one. You were on the phone with this one. Why are you eating so much today and you didn't eat anything yesterday? What's going on here? Give me the benefit of the doubt. Keep watching. I must keep watching, but let's be subtle about it and respectful. Any comments? Continue. Number 3, when I get back home, try not to jump to conclusions. Don't jump to conclusions. Maybe your conclusions are correct. So are you saying, don't jump, Clint? I'm saying, don't jump to conclusions. Do your research, and if your family member is using again, do something about it. But be sure before you jump. Because a red eye doesn't mean that they're using. It might just mean that there's some soap in the eye. Oh, for real. I just had a bad shower. There's soap in my eye. I'm not using. Don't simply assume I am using again. It could be anything else. Don't jump to conclusions. Please ask. Don't immediately accuse. This is not my words. It's from the perspective of the struggling, recovering addict. Please ask. Ask me. But there's a problem, and I speak this to myself. Thank you very much. That it is. You know what? Somebody once said or asked, Clint, how do you know when an addict is lying? How do you know when an addict is lying? Not only they don't answer, how do you know when an addict is lying? When their mouths open. And I say this with respect, and this does not my words, it comes from panels of discussion. A struggling addict is very, come on, you just said it now, very manipulative. And I say this with love and respect. Come on now. Does anybody disagree with me? Is that harsh? I'm going to ask Melissa straight. Manipulative. Baya. A lot. So even if your loved one goes to the bathroom, let me use a good word, ablution facilities, even if they go to the bathroom around the corner, you have this constant fear. Maybe they're using. Maybe they went to go sniff. Maybe they went to go smoke. So I get it. That's the other side of the coin. I get it. You justify to feel that way. Your trust has been smashed. But from their perspective, those that are truly, truly, truly struggling to get over this, please ask. Sorry. Don't immediately accuse. Help me.
Will this be the place where you know the person is ready to help himself, to be able to be honest with you? Because if you ask them, they usually don't answer you.
And so there's a different level we're at now. Has the person been to a rehabilitation center for a program? Minimum 6 months. With all respect, the 3 to 4 week programs, it's not enough. You've got to have 6 to 9 to 12 months. And thereafter, in my humble opinion, please strike it from the roll. In my humble opinion, after the 12 months of a rehabilitation center, find them a place of safety, a halfway house, a nurturing house, so that they can get reintegrated into society, then only get back into society. Maybe the person that you may be referring to, he's still, or she's still, or they still struggling. It's very difficult to speak to that person because they're still heavily involved in taking drugs. You won't get an answer, and whatever they say is going to be a lie just to get the next fix. However, if somebody comes from a rehab center, they've been clean for a few months, they come back home, this is what we're speaking about. Don't watch me too much, although you are watching in a very subtle way. Don't assume because I've been through a rehabilitation center. And if I can just put this there as a footnote, many individuals have gone to various rehabilitations through their journey of recovery. And I'm going to qualify that.
Okay, on the please ask and don't immediately accuse, I can testify to that one. I was sick I had the flu for about 2 weeks, and my mother then assumed that I was high. And I took a drug test, but because it was a false positive, medication can also cause you to test positive on a drug test. I tested positive, but it was a false positive because I've been drinking med lemon and Disprin. So the two combined, you will test positive for crystal meth. So medication, you need to make sure that they have a doctor's note and the type of medication, and take them to a doctor with a drug test as well, so that they can testify that it is a false positive.
If I can just add this. I had the flu for 2 weeks. You accused me of taking drugs. I took the test. It was a false positive. That act there pushed me right back into addiction. Here's the problem. We need to heal our minds. We need to strengthen our minds. We need to strengthen ourselves. We need to become more self-aware, self-esteem, self-image, having that positive outlook on myself, so that when these small little hiccups happen, it doesn't push us all the way back again. Does that make sense? So we've got to build the mind. And we'll see this afternoon how it affects the mind. Okay, question. Here we go again.
I've got a bit of a concern because I think we are more focused on the addicted part, and we forget or we neglect the people who are taking care of those that are addicted, because it also it might affect, or it would have affected, like for example, it would have affected your mental state. So is it possible that at the same time, me taking care of the addicted person be affected psychologically, and I need to go to counseling?
I'm going to stand here when I answer that, because I answer this with conviction. Absolutely. And that's why there are many support groups. And please, I'm not saying trust Google with everything, but Google it. There are many support groups out there for individuals who are affected by the infected. It's very important to have a support group as those that took care of or are taking care of addicted individuals, 100%. And yes, it does affect you psychologically. It can kick you to addiction. So yes, 100%. And I say that with certainty. Yes, support groups, 100%. Okay. Hey,
I watched something on YouTube long ago about a family in addiction. So sometimes the people who really suffer in that family are the siblings. They get absolutely ignored, it seems. And the one girl who was a sister, her brother was an addict, she started cutting herself. She didn't know what to do with the pain. She didn't know what to do with the suffering. So it's important for the whole family, I realized, to be in counseling, because the addict at that time couldn't be bothered. She's just looking for his or her next fix. But the rest of the family suffers tremendously, and one often forgets about the rest of the family. It can lead to divorces because the parents said how they battled to keep themselves together, because they blame each other. Where you have mother and father, they blame each other as to why this child started using. And so it's very difficult to navigate your healthy relationships in an abnormal situation like that.
100%. And so that comes back to your point. Do the families need support? Absolutely. Absolutely. I did, however, start this morning by saying my presentation is from the perspective of the addicted. The affected, absolutely. So I'm going to be speaking to Connie. Maybe we'll come back next week. Everybody available? Answered. Okay, fantastic. All right, so while I walk, emotional blackmail only pushes me back. So let's not open that can too much now, because we can spend the next hour speaking about emotional blackmail on both sides, because the addict is an expert in emotional blackmail. However, when they get back home, we too can put that on them. Okay, so let's go back. No, let's go forward. Number 4, my advice to others. Let's run very quickly through this. The addicted person, the ex-addict, the one that has found recovery, can advise others. Choose friends that will be good for you. Nathan, you said it. You quoted the verse. 1 Corinthians something, verse 33. Good company corrupts bad habits or bad character. Choose friends that will be good for you. But I always add this, because it's not fair to just choose good friends. Be the good friend. Be the right friend. My mom always said, Clint, your friends are bad for you, your friends are bad for you. Little did she know that I was the bad friend. Yeah? Choose right friends. Be the right friend. Choose wisely which places to hang out at. Choose wisely which places to hang out at. This is advice to others. Yes, it does matter. Nightclubs are not good places to go to. It does matter. Amen? I don't know. It does matter. Music is a definite trigger. It really is a trigger. I never believed this. I thought, man, I'll sit and I'll listen to, okay, let's not mention any artists, because that will be picking them. All right. Music is a definite trigger. This is advice from those struggling with addiction to others. Never say, I've got this. You don't. You really don't. Never say, I can handle it. No, I'll stop. I've got this. You don't. I just want to come to Lloyd quickly. You have a few friends, you've mentioned openly, that just quit on their own. They didn't need rehabilitation centers, etc. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
Let's not make the mistake of believing that we are them. There are certain people that can. There are others that can't. Never compare yourself to the next person. Oh no, Lloyd could do it without the rehabilitation center. He never went to church. Nobody prayed for him. He turned his life around. He's got his job back. His wife is with him. His children are happy. If he can do it, I can do it. You're lying to yourself. You don't know that. Never say, I've got this. You don't. The next one. listen to your mother. Or listen to your father, or listen to your grandmother or your grandfather. Listen to your mother, synonymous with those that care for you and know better than you. Listen to your mom. I wish I did. It could have saved me years and years of torment. Listen to your family members. And for those that don't have the luxury of moms or dads, and there are those that don't, there must have been somebody in your life that said something to you. I can't blame you for not listening because we didn't deal with your mental state. Your mental health is the correct term. Your mental health, very important. And I know somebody in this room that's very big on mental health. You don't have to follow my eyes. Mental health, very important. Deal with your issues and your emotions. Mental health. Deal with your issues. That's my advice to others from the perspective of an addicted person. Ladies and gentlemen, I end with what I started. God can. Oh, that's a weak amen. I'm going to run around here and I'm going to take my handkerchief and I'm going to need tissues. God can. Let Him. Let Him. God can. Yeah, but Clint sounds very, people have said this over and over again. God can. God can. Somebody wrote something on some social media post sometime about patience. I can't remember. I wish you could. Patience is something, but not something. I will look it up and I'll bring it to you. God can. Let Him. Let's be patient. Let's trust God's process. His timing is not my timing. His thoughts is not my thoughts. His methods are not my methods. God can. Let Him. Ladies and gentlemen, I end with this. Ephesians 3:20-21. There are hundreds of other verses in the Bible that could be quoted. I chose the next or the following two. Now to Him who is able. There's no amen. Now to Him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. Point in case. Kirsten. Charlene. Lloyd. Nathaniel. God did it for you. Randall. God did it for you. He can do it for you too. He can. Exceedingly abundantly. Finally, Matthew 19:26. With God, simple. With God, all things are possible. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.